Hey Argo fans, Eli Franceschi joining you for the Argos Admirals, and it is week 8 in the Canadian Football League, which means that the bye weeks are now out of the way, and we're in the latter half of August, and that also indicates that 1/3 of the season is in the books. And when we look back at the first 6 games of the season for the Toronto Argonauts, your 100th Grey Cup champions, it's everything's been clicking on all cylinders. If you wanna look at defensively, offensively, and even special teams, of course, especially lately, everything has been coming together, and the Argonauts have had some convincing victories over some good football teams. You look at what they did against BC with Zach Clarosin at quarterback, and following that up with the bye week, and then coming back and beating Montreal in a convincing fashion. It shows that obviously maybe the Argonauts are the beasts of the East, and it suggests that. And they currently sit at 4-2 atop of the division, but a big three-game homestand is on the horizon, and that all begins on Sunday night with the Edmonton Eskimos coming to town, a rematch of last year's Eastern semifinal, which of course the Argonauts defeated the Eskimos by a score of 42-26 to advance to the Eastern final, and as they say, the rest is history. Special teams, of course, got a huge boost last week with Chad Owens making that tremendous return, 118 yards, missed field goal, return for a touchdown against the Montreal Alouettes, which is his former football club, a team that he seems to just historically he's had a lot of success against. So that didn't surprise me. And last week, as I'm in my video preview for that game, I mentioned the fact that maybe the special teams would make a big play in that football game, and indeed they did. And it was about time, as Scott Milanovic said, it was just a waiting game. And last year we saw Chad Owens, ironically, as we look back, it was Chad Owens' last return touchdown prior to last week was against these very same Edmonton Eskimos in the Eastern semifinal a year ago. So we might see double magic. We saw it last weekend against Montreal. We'll see if he can repeat that this week against Edmonton and carry over the success that he has had against the Eskimos. In terms of Ricky Ray, he had some time off last week in that football game, of course, because Zach Claros came in to get some reps, and with such a substantial lead, it was a good decision for the Argonauts to just let Ricky Ray sit, make sure that he didn't re-injure that knee. We saw him take a hit from Ejiro Kowali, who ironically was released after the game by the Montreal Alouettes, but we saw him take a hit from Ejiro Kowali that may have tweaked his knee again, but fortunately it didn't seem like it re-injured that knee, and he seems to be 100% for this week's game against Edmonton. He's been hot of late. 34 of 38 over the course of the past couple of games that he's played in, which dates back, of course, to the game against Winnipeg on Friday, July the 19th, and then carrying over to what he did against Montreal last week. But he's been on fire. Him, along with Darian Durant, are the only two quarterbacks in the CFL so far this season that remain that haven't thrown an interception yet, which certainly tells you something. They're being efficient. They're getting in and out of the offense. But, of course, they're always being in Darian Durant's case, they're very much complemented by a good running attack. And the Argonauts, Curtis Steele has been very good since arriving onto the scene. And this week, though, he's battling injury. We'll see if he starts or not. Quinn Porter might be in line to take his spot and make his first career CFL start. Porter's been taking some of the first team reps this week, and as Steele seems to be limping around the practice field for the Argonauts. But nonetheless, this might be an opportunity for the Argos running backs to take advantage of a depleted Edmonton defense. And that all begins, when you talk about the Eskimos defense, it all begins with their middle linebacker, J.C. Sherritt. And unfortunately this week, they won't have him in the lineup. When you look back at last year's Eastern semifinal, the one key ingredient for the Eskimos that they could say maybe make an excuse because he wasn't in the lineup, that was J.C. Sherritt, who was ruled out of that football game and taken out of the lineup just moments prior to kickoff as he was suffering from an injury. And this week, had a broken thumb, had surgery, will be out for the foreseeable future, and that leaves a huge hole in the Eskimos defense, a defense that has already struggled to stop the run. They're last in the league in terms of surrendering rushing yards per game. They've surrendered 144 rushing yards per game, so this might be an opportunity for Quinn Porter or Curtis Steele, whoever starts this game, to explode and have a big game along the ground, and obviously an effective running attack just makes Ricky Ray and that aerial game so much more lethal. And they're also going to get a boost because Dontrell Inman appears that he's going to be making his return to the starting lineup. With that being said, we might see John Childs move over to the opposite side where Spencer Watt is currently injured, so we might see him start there. But Chad Owens has been consistent. Andre Durr has been consistent. Jason Barnes has made some big plays. This receiving core is probably one of the best in the Canadian Football League right now. And now it's time for my 3 keys to victory for what the Argonauts need to do well in order to come out victorious on Sunday night against the Edmonton Eskimos. And I begin with just saying ride the wave, ride the momentum. You guys have won 3 consecutive games, and a couple of those coming on the road, of course, in Winnipeg, and most recently coming off a big win in Montreal. They're riding high right now. Lots of momentum, a lot of confidence, and they're feeling comfortable as a unit. Just keep that going. You're facing an Edmonton Eskimos team that everything has gone wrong for them all season long. Maybe they're due for a victory. Who knows? You can't underestimate them. But of course, you just got to be confident, ride the momentum, and you have the better football team on paper and on the field. Every aspect of the game, defensively, offensively, special teams wise, the Argonauts line up and say they should be able to beat the Edmonton Eskimos. It's just about maintaining that confidence level and feeling comfortable, everybody doing their job, and they should be able to come out victorious on Sunday night. As I mentioned earlier, with regards to the Edmonton Eskimos' run defense, they're struggling, and now with JC Sherrod out, as much as you don't want to say it, and you don't wish for a player like that to go down due to injury and miss a long, big portion of the season. But of course, the Argonauts need to take advantage of that, and that means Curtis Steele and Quinn Porter having to attack this defense, and that also goes to the hands of Marcus Brady, who's calling the plays. If I'm Marcus Brady, I want to establish the run early on. I want to make sure that Ricky Ray can feel comfortable in that pocket. Who knows how that knee's feeling? It's obviously feeling a lot better than it was a week ago going into that game against Montreal. He's probably feeling a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident, but yet you still want to establish a run game. You want to take advantage of the issues that they're going to have defensively. Yes, they still have Damaso Munoz, who is second in the CFL in tackles with 41, but J.C. Sherrod is a big part of that defense. Taking him away from that now, there's going to be a lot of who's going to be the leader, who's going to communicate the signals, who's going to make all those reads that he makes and what he usually brings to the table. That physicality aspect, we'll have to see, but I think whether it's Quinn Porter or Curtis Steele, it's going to be important for Marcus Brady and Scott Milanovich to make it a point of emphasis to establish a run game early on. And my third key to victory, we look at the defensive side of the football, and if the Argonauts want to be victorious on Sunday night, it begins with stopping the run, and of course Edmonton's offense is centered around more of a up and down attack, and when I say that, I speak of the fact that they're more of an unconventional offense, and Kavis Reed, the head coach of the Edmonton Eskimos, noted that this past week in a sense that it's very predictable what they run, but also they're more of an unconventional offense, and they need to maybe go back to that more conventional drop-back type of passing offense with Mike Riley, but before they can do that, of course, as we know, we talk about with the BC Lions, the catalyst for their offense as well, it all starts at the running back position with Hugh Charles, and we've seen those flips, somersaults in the end zone after he scores touchdowns. The Argonauts are going to need to make sure that they don't see that happen this week if they want to be victorious on Sunday night. And that all it comes down to really in the trenches. The defensive line needs to provide some pressure. Make Mike Riley uncomfortable. And with that, then you'll get to Hugh Charles and you'll be able to minimize and contain that running attack. And before I conclude this week's video preview, we have a special event coming up this Wednesday, August the 21st at Real Sports Apparel. And last year at the beginning of the season, we had it as well. It was Chad Owens, Corey Boyd at that point, and Ricky Foley as well as that point that came in and did an Argos All-Access event at Real Sports, much like how they do with the Toronto Maple Leafs and Toronto FC as well as the Toronto Raptors, where there's an interactive Q&A session followed by an autograph session. And we're excited to say that this upcoming one on August the 21st will feature Andre Dury and Jeff Keeping from your 100th Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts, as well as the 1983 Grey Cup champions Jan Karinci and Dan Ferrone, a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, Dan Ferrone, who will be going into the Hall actually very soon, towards the end of the season, I believe. So that's going to be a tremendous event. We invite you all to come down to Real Sports Apparel for that Wednesday, August 21st, 6 p.m. Of course, it's an interactive Q&A session followed by an autograph session, and that's in preparation for the Argonauts' next home game, which will be the second of this 3-game homestand as they take on the Calgary Stampeders. But of course, the main task before we get to that is this Sunday night against the Edmonton Eskimos. The game can be watched live on TSN, of course, beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or you can listen to it along with Mike Hogan from TSN 1050 Radio. For the Argos Admirals, I'm Deanna Franceschi. We hope that you enjoy the game on Sunday night, Argos fans.